Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning everyone. Today's situation is discussing about the case of HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH binti Haji KAMARUDDIN against Public Services Commission Malaysia and another 1992-1 MLJ 513. Prepared by me, Wan Adia Belkis binti Muhammad Iskandar Shah. My matric number is 1240478 and my partner Siti Aisyah Humairah binti Muhammad Ghazali and her matric number is 1240477. The case of HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH binti Haji KAMARUDDIN against Public Services Commission Malaysia was happened in 1992. The case is about the constitutional rights of Muslim women in the workplace in Malaysia. It focuses on the plaintiff, HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH, who challenged the dismissal by the defendant, the Public Services Commission, due to her insistence on wearing a purdah face veil at work, which was considered non-compliant with the government's dress code for civil servants. The case raised important questions about the scope of religious practices protected under Article 11 of the Federal Constitution. Move to 1.2, the brief introduction about the plaintiff. The plaintiff, HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH binti Haji KAMARUDDIN, was a civil servant working as a clerk in a state legal advisor's office. As a devout Muslim, she wore a purdah face veil as part of her religious obligation. She argued that her dismissal violated her constitutional right to religious freedom under Article 11, subsection 1 of the Federal Constitution, which guarantees the right to practice one's religion freely. She maintained that her dismissal interfered with her ability to fulfill this right. Legal analysis and discussions on the case highlight the tension between religious freedom and public sector policies. The Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, SUHAKAM, also emphasizes the need to protect religious freedoms as a fundamental right. Moreover, we move to 1.3, the brief introduction about the defendant. The Public Services Commission Malaysia, PSC, is responsible for overseeing the recruitment, appointment, promotion and discipline of public servants in Malaysia. As the defendant in this case, the Commission enforced a dress code requiring civil servants to maintain professional attire, which included prohibiting the wearing of attire that obscures the face. It ensures that civil servants adhere to established rules and regulations, including those related to dress codes, to maintain professionalism, uniformity and effective service delivery. In this case, the PSC argued that the prohibition of wearing a purdah was necessary for ensuring proper communication and public perception in the workplace. The second defendant supported the enforcement of the dress code as part of maintaining the efficiency and image of the public service. Moreover, we move to the summary of the case. The conflict between the plaintiff and the defendant. The plaintiff, a Muslim civil servant, was dismissed for wearing a purdah face veil at work, claiming it violated her right to religious freedom under Article 11, subsection 1 of the Federal Constitution. The plaintiff also argued that the dismissal violated her constitutional rights and disciplinary procedures. The defendant argued that purdah is not a mandatory Islamic practice and the dress code ensures professionalism and security. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Public Services Commission, upholding the dismissal as lawful and balancing religious rights with public service regulations.
And next for issues, argument of the plaintiff have three arguments. The first one is, the plaintiff argued that Order 24 of General Order, Chapter D have not been complied with. She claimed that the procedure outlined in the order for disciplinary action had not been followed in her case. Furthermore, the plaintiff contended that the identity of the person who lodged the complaint or report to chairman were not disclosed to her, and this prevented her from challenging the accusation effectively. After that, the plaintiff argued that Public Service Commission, PSC, which is the first defendant, should have made a formal finding of guilt before dismissing her from service. According to her, due process required that a finding of guilt must be established before any disciplinary action such as termination could take place. Next, argument of the defendant. The defendant argued that under Order 24 of General Order Chapter D, disciplinary actions against the plaintiff began when a report is made to the disciplinary board. Once the chairman of the board receives the report, there is no requirement to call a meeting of the board. Therefore, in this case, the Order 24 of General Order Chapter D has been complied with. Furthermore, under the General Order do not require the name of the complaint to be disclosed to the plaintiff or any other person. The complaint name may be disclosed to the plaintiff if the Public Service Commission decides to appoint a committee investigates a complaint under Order 26. Finally, Order 26, Paragraph 4 of General Order does not require the Public Service Commission to find plaintiff guilty before dismissing her from service. The PSC is only required to decide whether the plaintiff explanation has cleared her to the allegation. Next, the law that had been applied in this case is the first one, Federal Constitution of Malaysia, 1957. The Federal Constitution of Malaysia guarantee fundamental right, including Article 8 and Article 11. The plaintiff invoked Article 8 to argue that the dismissal was discriminatory and violated her right to equality, and Article 11 to claim that her right to practice her religion was infringed upon by the requirement to remove her HAJJAH her Civil Service Commission. And for second law is Public Service Commission Act 1957. This law governed the operation of Public Service Commission and outlined the disciplinary procedure in the civil service. The plaintiff contend that the PSC failed to follow proper procedure under this act when dismissing her without proper investigation. And lastly, Order 24 of the General Order, Chapter D, 1918. The General Order, GOD, specifically Order 24 and 26, set out procedure for disciplinary action against public servant. The plaintiff argued that PSC did not comply with this procedure, particularly regarding the failure to formally charge her and provide a proper hearing before her dismissal. Next, court decision. In the case of HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH against Public Service Commission, Malaysian and another, the court ruled in favor of Public Service Commission and dismissing the plaintiff appeal. The court held that the PSC has followed the proper procedure, including dismissal without the need of formal charge, a finding of guilt as per Order 26 of the General Order, Chapter D. Court also note that the PSC not need to disclose the identity of the complaint under Order 26, as the disclosure of the complaint identity was left to the discretion of the PSC, and it did not infringe upon the plaintiff's right to a fair hearing. Additionally, the court found that the action taken by the PSC were in line with the requirement under Order 24 of the General Order, Chapter D, which only require the PSC to assess whether plaintiff's explanation was satisfactory to clear her from allegation admits against her. That comment, which is under the trial. In this case of HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH, the court decision to uphold the dismissal was, in fact, fair and reasonable, given the circumstances. As a public servant working in the government, the plaintiff was required to adhere the policies that ensure the protection for government secret and the efficient functioning of the public service. The wearing of burqa that cover the face would potentially hinder the identification of individual working in a sensitive environment, creating security risks. If the burqa were allowed, it could facilitate unauthorized entry into government office. Furthermore, the decision aligned with the guidance provided by the Datuk Mufti regarding the Islamic dress code for women. According to Datuk Mufti, the Quran does not mandate of the burqa, but require to cover their body, except for the face, palm, and feet. His fatwa emphasized that if a woman's face excessively adorned with cosmetic and becomes a source of temptation, should be covered to avoid causing disorder or fitnah. The fatwa acknowledged that the burqa is not a religious obligation. Muslim women in Malaysia are not required to wear it, especially as it was not customary practice until recently. Next, precedent of the trial. Judgment in the case of HAJJAH HALIMATUSSAADIAH against Public Service Commission, Malaysian and another, may set a precedent for future cases involving religious attire and public sector employment, particularly in terms of balancing personal religious expression with the government regulation for security and professionalism. This ruling could influence future trial involving Muslim employees in the government position, leading to stricter enforcement of dress code and raising concern over the protection of individual rights, particularly for women wishing to express their faith through attire.
To conclude, policymakers should create clear and inclusive dress code policies that respect cultural and religious practices while ensuring professionalism and security. These policies should involve input from religious scholars, civil society, and public employees to ensure fairness, transparent disciplinary procedures, and regular training for public service managers on sensitive issues like religious attire can promote mutual respect. Additionally, awareness campaigns about civil servants' rights and responsibilities can reduce misunderstandings and conflicts. That's all from me.